Hello, English 2 students, and welcome to day one of us reading Act 2 of The Crucible. So let's dive right in and talk about what we discussed in the face-to-face class. So the first thing to point out is it's important to remember that John Proctor had an affair. Was out and open. He had an affair with Abigail, their maid. And so, of course, we're going to start off with an interaction between Elizabeth and John. So just imagine what it's going to be like. Some students said it would be like they'd be angry. Some students had said it would be awkward. So, but believe it or not, it's both. Like it starts off as awkward, and they're trying to not necessarily step on each other's toes to prevent a fight from happening. By the way, this is happening 8 days after the end of Act 1. So that's basically kind of where we start off with this awkward kind of conversation between these two because John hurt Elizabeth and he's trying to make up with it for her. And then like here at the beginning of the next page, 1268 or page 2 in the PDF, you see John trying to win favor with her. And importantly, look at the stage direction where in the stage direction, you see kind of how they're supposed to emote to their words that are being said. And that's where you kind of see them trying not to step on each other's toes. We come down here at the very bottom, and this is where we kind of begin to see the start of a fight. So it takes us about 2 pages, but the fight really begins to start boiling over right here. We go on to 1269, and we kind of get news of what's going on. They've actually set up a court to figure out who these witches are and whatnot. And we learn that 14 people have been jailed and they are scheduled to be hanged because they have the power to hang them. So they're scheduled to die. Right here, we get an interesting note from Elizabeth about who has the most power, how they've been coming into play. Of course, this line right here, the deputy governor promised hanging if they did not confess. So basically, if you confess, you live. If you don't confess to being a witch, you die. It becomes a very sticky situation. And then we kind of find out a person who has been able to gain the most power from all of this going on. As we continue, we find out that Elizabeth knows that it's fake because John Proctor told her that it was fake because he talked to Abigail, which is an interesting wrinkle. But then the fight truly begins right here, especially when this happens. You were alone with her? Because John Proctor told her that he talked to Abigail, but failed to mention that they were alone. And so automatically, if your husband cheated on you and he was alone with the woman he cheated on you with, your mind's going to immediately jump to there. Then down here is where we kind of see Proctor let loose. This is where you can kind of see both Elizabeth Proctor and John Proctor's motives come into play here, specifically with these two areas. Elizabeth Proctor's in her own right. She's allowed to feel this way, but to understand why John Proctor feels this way, these two little sections where John Proctor speaks on 1270 really help indicate it. In fact, here's kind of how it goes. Spare me. You forget nothing and forgive nothing. Learn charity, woman. I have gone tiptoe in this house for all 7 months since she is gone. I have not moved from there nor there to there without, I think, to please you. And still an everlasting funeral marches around your heart. I cannot speak, but I am doubted every moment, judged for lies, as though I come into court when I come into this house. That's his response whenever Elizabeth is upset with him because he was alone with Abigail. And then he comes in here, and like some people are like, he's still in the wrong. Like he's been like, I don't see where he's coming from. But here's where you kind of get insight to why he thinks the way he does. Now, I'm not trying to say John Proctor is innocent. Like Elizabeth Proctor has every right to be mad at John Proctor. Like he did something horrible, and he deserves no sympathy. But here's why he thinks that she should at least forgive them. No more? I should have roared you down when first you told me your suspicion. But I wilted, and like a Christian, I confessed. Confessed! Some dream I must have had mistaking you for God that day. But you are not. You're not. And you will let you remember it. Let you look sometimes at the goodness in me and not judge me. that is the reason why he feels upset about this, because he confessed. He didn't have to confess. He could keep it a secret. He could have lied, but he confessed, and that's where his issue hangs into balance. We move on to 1271, and right when Mary Warren enters, we kind of see a shift in tone. Like it's a very palpable, like is an angry atmosphere, and even when Mary Warren first walks in, there's still a lot of anger in the air, but slowly it changes. The tone changes, and the feelings change inside the room, and we get a big news that we went from 13 being accused of witchcraft to 39, or 14 being accused of witchcraft up to 39. So that thing exploded. So the issue is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And she talks about two women. And once again, there's the key difference between these two women here at the bottom. One confessed, so she gets to live. One didn't, and so she's going to be killed. We move on then to page 6 of the PDF, or page 1272. And here, right here, where Mary Warren speaks about halfway down, is another place I want to look at. Let's talk about a sociological lens of this. So if you look at it through like a feminist lens or a socioeconomic lens or even an ageist lens, we see that some of the women they've picked so far have been easy targets, people that can be persecuted and people that are taken advantage of quite often. Right here, where she sleeps in ditches, she's homeless, and so very old, she's old and poor. So they are taking advantage of, they're placing the blame, they're they're accusing of witchcraft people who are poor, people who are of course women, and then people who are homeless and old. So these people are people that get taken advantage of often, and so it's just another example of them getting taken advantage of if we look at it through a sociological lens. Of course, it's these people who get the blame placed on them. At the bottom, we get an interesting idea about the proof. So here's the proof that you have to do in order to prove you're not a witch. But then the judge says, recite us your commandments. And all of the 10, she could not say a single one. She never knew no commandments, and they had her in a flat lie. So in order to prove that you are not a witch, you have to be able to say your 10 commandments. It might just be it's the proof that they use, but comes back later in this act, and the way it comes back later in this act is hilarious, believe it or not. We move on to 1273. 1273. This is where we begin to see like a motive for Mary to begin to arise, and we also get this weird thing about Goody Good being pregnant. Why is she pregnant? Think about why she might just claim that she's pregnant. And this right here is the most backwards thinking I have encountered in a while. If like I honestly thought that she was a witch, and this was the data that I would have, I'd be like, no, we can't let this woman live. We got to hang her now. But she's not a witch, so I would not have hanged her. And this is where, throughout this entire page, we see Mary Warren slowly gain more confidence and gain more power, and that kind of feeds back into the motive of what Mary has going into this act, and also the conflict that happens between her and the proctors right here. We finished on 1274. That's where we left off for the face-to-face, and that's where we're going to leave off here. So Elizabeth Proctor was accused of being a witch. Surprise, surprise, but Mary Warren saved her. I wonder who accused Elizabeth Proctor of being a witch. The last half of this entire page right here is basically this. Elizabeth knows something because she's a woman. John Proctor is ignorant to it because he's a man. And so Elizabeth is trying to wise John Proctor up on this thing that is happening, but John Proctor's pride won't let him be able to actually listen to it or actually think about it. Where we left off is actually right here, where Proctor says she cannot think of it. He knows it's true. And before that, we get even another example of people taking advantage of the disenfranchised, or the just taking advantage of people. Goody Good, who sleeps in ditches because she's homeless, and Osborne, who's drunk and half-witted, so she is drunk and not that intelligent. And those are the people that they are taking advantage of. Those are the ones that they are accusing of witchcraft. So that's all I got for you for today for day 1 of Act 2 readings. I'll be back for day 2 of Act 2 readings tomorrow. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the doobly-doo below me in the comments or email me at pdavidson@portugal.k12.mo.us. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.